And then I'll share my screen because I have to share. Can you get me to the part where?
I gotta go
Okay.
make you the host, but you'll just press that and then log
Okay,
into whatever you
Cool,
need.
cool.
Thank you. It's not on here. No, it's not. Do you get the emails? You get the center emails?
I get the emails.
It's on there. It's on the links.
When I click on that, it doesn't take me anywhere.
Doesn't take anywhere?
I think maybe because the market center emails they don't come to my KW email. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. They come to my personal email. You talking about the office announcements?
Yeah.
So they come to a different email than mine. It says Google Calendar, but then it says it's been moved. So when let's see. You do not have access, is what it's saying.
Oh, so you're gonna have to ask her to ask them. Yeah, so mine comes right up.
Okay.
That's.
I'm gonna give y'all, hey, sorry for the delay. Give y'all this here little cheat sheet.
Thank you.
This class is the listing process, right? Dealing with so much stuff, y'all, I tell you. Let me check the last class I had. Video wasn't up and it was I think it's good. Slide. All right, listing agents to be. How to become a great listing agent. It's easier to be a buyer's agent than it is to be a listing agent, and I'll tell you why. Because with buyer's agents, you get in the car, you schedule the showing, you go look at the houses, the oohs and the ahs, then you write a contract. That's when it gets a little bit more difficult. But it's easy. When you're listing someone's house, it's not about you as a person, it's about what your services provide to that person. And when I say that, I mean, most people are a little bit apprehensive about getting a brand new agent to list their house. Why? That's the question, not me telling.
Less
Maybe
experience.
in that experience, maybe.
They don't think you'll sell their home.
They feel that you don't have anything to bounce off of. You know, you don't have nothing to show that you listed a house. So they don't know how successful you will be at doing that. And when you have other people who are interviewing with them, you have to show them that this is something that I can do. Well, the one good thing that you all have that maybe other companies don't have is you have a whole team of us and a reputation for Keller Williams having an opportunity to list houses. There are sometimes I go in towns, and I do go in towns, and I do go and look and see if we have a Keller Williams office or something in different places. And it blows my mind when I see all of these Keller Williams signs out for sale. That means we're doing something right. I see more in my neighborhood. I have to disclose this. In my neighborhood, I have more Keller Williams agents who sell houses in my neighborhood than I. I don't know why I don't work my neighborhood, but it's because I live there and I'm like, if something goes wrong, I don't want them to.
Knock on your door.
No, as a matter of fact, when I put my sign out trying to get it in the house and put it in the storage, I'm like, hopefully nobody won't see this sign. Maybe I should lay it down. But when I tell you that in the last 2-3 months, I've had probably at least 7 or 8 people who sold houses in my neighborhood. Over half of those were Keller Williams agents. Over half of them. Actually, one was right in this office. Sold it. I could see it from my mailbox. I was like, what? How did he get it? But that's called their prospecting. Obviously, they're prospecting beyond just their comfort zone because they all live over here. Anyway, so what I wanted to do is talk to you about what happens when someone calls you and say, hey, I want you to list my property. What are the things that you have to do? I have agents call me and the first thing they say, what do I do? Well, first of all, did you tell them that you didn't know what you were doing? No, of course not. We don't tell them that because it's an opportunity to sell. Selling a house is like the best thing you can be doing as a real estate agent. Why? Because the house is going to sell. You guarantee a commission check, period. So that's why I switched over from bodies to stuff. So anyway, but what are the things that you want to be doing when you go? And one of the first things that we like to ask before we go to the appointment, because that's what we should be doing. We should be having a conversation with that seller before we show up. If anybody tells me that they're listing houses and they have not went to the house and observed the house prior to the sellers signing something, I'm a little bit concerned because you want to know what you're getting yourself into. Okay? This is a time to set at the, where do you go to set at when you go to meet your clients in their house? What's the perfect place to go?
Kitchen.
Why? Kitchen, dining room, why? Why is that a good place to go and sit with someone who's wanting to know if you can help them sell their house?
You can see the layout, maybe? That's
And you,
where the
you
value of
can
the
have
house
a,
is
a
stated.
place where you can sign papers.
Because when someone invites you to their table, they're welcoming you into their home. That's where they're getting to the point where they're getting comfortable with you. If you're standing at the door and they don't want to let you in, or you got to be so, and there's something about it. If you're in the living room, that's a little bit different. I'm from the South. You take, look, company comes to the living room. They don't go past that living room. They don't come to the kitchen because they're not family. So when you go there, you're creating a relationship with the seller. Sitting down at the table, they're gonna offer you something to drink. She may offer you some cookies, whatever the case may be, but now you're building something. It's called trusting this person that they'll be able to think for you. The sellers are looking for someone that's gonna think for them and advocate for them. And that's the best way to do it, at the kitchen table. I know for people are like, what? Yeah. So then once you get there, it's all about, like I say, strengthening the relationship. Because what you want to do now is sit down with them, let them kind of, they're kind of a little uptight. Why? Because more people are asked, they're interviewing people. They want to know who they can be comfortable with. So that's why we go to the house. But before we go to the house, there's some things that we got to do, right? Okay, why are you selling? Now, in this market, why are they selling? Brag. Why
Cash
they
out.
sell? Yes, okay. Just wanted you to be honest. Because he sold his house, because he was like,
Cashing out.
I'm cashing out. I'm making all this money.
That's right.
I'm gonna make a whole lot more money than I would another year from now where everything's died down and I'm gonna get a lot less than what I would have got. How much more did you get over what you thought you would get?
117,000.
And look, told your whole family, get y'all it's out here. Get up, we going.
I said to my wife, guess what we're doing today? She says, what? I said, looking for rentals.
So in this particular market, more so than any, they're selling their house because they know they're gonna get more money for it. which we had never been in this type of situation ever before. That people are literally selling their homes where their kids have been, they're raised in and everything, and the dad is coming in and saying, y'all gotta go. Because I'm gonna make some money off of this. I would have did the same thing. Mine was divorced, so it was different. I wish I waited, but then he would have got more, so never mind. So, you know, so I know everyone said, this is a joke. You always do about your relationship. I said, what else can I talk about? Me. So that is something for sure that they're doing. So if their financial expectation is they want to make a lot of money, then you can do whatever CMA you want. They don't tell you a number, and obviously it will sell. But you want to know, back in the day, because I have to roll it back to when it used to happen, not in this current market. Most of the time, what will be some of the reasons why people want to sell, besides making a whole lot of money?
Relocating,
Transfers,
jobs.
downside.
Oh, yeah.
Upside.
Upsizing,
Those who
right.
job not be able to pay
So you-
foreclosures.
That's right. So you need to know this so that you're able to conduct yourself in the manner for why they're needing to sell. If someone is reaching out to you and say, why they, and I used to have agents and they were like, why they selling? None of your business why they selling. All you need to know is it's for sale. Do you want your buyer to get it or not? But I have some agents who have vomit in the mouth. They just started talking, just flowing. No. When your seller tells you why they're wanting to sell, it's not the other agent's business why. Now, some will try to dig and say, well, I see that the person died. Oh, you did? Good for you then. That's what you're doing today? I'm trying to sell houses. I'm not looking to see who's on the obituary. But thank you for that. You know, so that, but you want to know why they're wanting to do it. For me, it was because of a divorce. And so when they asked me, you know, why are you selling your house? I said, because I want to. I am the seller. I'm the listing. I disclose that to you. That's it. That's all you need to know. Anything else is none of your business. So make sure that you know why they're wanting to do it. Why on number 3 would I ask for you to bring the deed, the tax info, and the seller net sheet to fill out at an appointment?
To make sure it's their property and marketable, so.
Now, for those of y'all that don't know, if you didn't go to my orientation, I was a paralegal, real estate paralegal. I did closings throughout the state of North Carolina, and well, at least as far as Charlotte and up towards Virginia, all the way down to South Carolina and across. I just didn't go to Charlotte. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't go to the mountains. Do y'all know how many times, and I just, y'all family, so I can talk to y'all like y'all family. Homeboy come in with girlfriend, he buying a house, and she over there just excited because fool done decide he want to buy her house and put it in her name. She gonna kick him to the curb as soon as that deed is recorded. So you make sure you bring in a deed so you can look at them and say, just want to make sure this is the same. Yeah, it's the same. We haven't changed anything. Or in the state of North Carolina, what happens? One person can buy and how many sells?
2 or whatever's
One
in
to
the
buy,
deed.
2 to sell.
Whoever the sellers are, right? You cannot come in and hubby said, oh, he want to sell the house and you don't see the wife. I have did that. I have closed on a townhome, got ready to close and could not figure out why we couldn't close. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm looking at the other agent. I'm like, what we waiting for? He's like, oh, he got to go get his wife. There's no wife on the deed. You know, there was no wife. It wasn't on the deed because he bought it before her. But I was like, on the contract, you didn't put nothing up there. Y'all have to understand something. This situation was very uncomfortable for me because we share a grandson, this agent and I. So, and he runs his own company, God help him. And I said to him, I said, he has a wife? To my, yeah. I said, did you know he had a wife? Well, you know, I didn't know what the situation was. Does it matter? You're a broken charge, you run your own company in the state of North Carolina. Yes, the wife has to sign off. So we had to wait 2 hours for the man to convince his wife who is pissed off, okay, and don't want to come. And my clients have already moved all their stuff in the moving van, is ready to go. And so she finally shows up, she signs off, and I look at him and I say, hey, you think you can send me something that shows that the wife signed the contract, the DDR, the, repair request, all this other stuff? Y'all, I'm still waiting on it. We share a grandbaby. Just, no, you can't do that. So just understand, that's why you take a deed in. You bring in the tax stuff. Why do you bring in the tax information?
To verify that the information that we're going to be listing.
Right, they're both for the things match, that's all. Because in this current market, it doesn't matter whatever the tax value is, that's irrelevant. Before, it used to be a point of conversation, now it's not. But just to make sure that it's consistent, okay? And the net sheet. If y'all been to my orientation, I talked about the net sheet, why we have a seller's net sheet.
So they can have an idea what money can get if the house is sell at this price or this price or X
Right.
price.
We have a fiduciary duty to provide our clients with what the potential they can make in profit net. After the mortgage has been paid off, the fees have been paid, whatever they may be, your commission check has been discussed, because this is another time to discuss your commission. So if you are a PB, meaning a provisional broker, can you do any listing amount, sell a commission rate that you want? No,
No.
no. Can you do it even after you are not a provisional? No, that was a trick question. Without asking for my permission. Someone actually sent me something the other day and said, hey, I just want to let you know I did it for this amount here, and I hope it's cool because they have already signed. Wow, it would have been nice if you could have told me this. I said, well, I'm gonna let you ride with it this time. Next time, just ask me beforehand, because the market is still hot, but give me an explanation as to why they want to do it for less than the 6%. If it's down to 5%, you don't even have to send it to me, because I already know the market. I know it's competitive. So if it's 5%, I'm not gonna say anything to you. If it's less than 5%, we need to talk. Because then I need to figure out how much are you getting and how much are you offering to the buyer's agent. Because if you're doing 4% and you're offering yourself 3% and the buyer's 1%, I have a problem with that. It's about win-win. You can't ask people to do stuff for nothing, So just make sure that if that's something you're doing, that you're definitely running it by me. And all it takes is a text message or something, and I'm good. Okay. Number 4 is like asking about skeletons in your closet. So of course I put up there some stuff, because this proposed and new assessments has become, special assessments have become a problem of late with agents. If there is a new, and when I say skeleton in the closet, what would you say is something that I might need to know about?
For me,
Oh, Lord, yeah.
You're about to go on foreclosure?
Mechanical things.
How about you got water in the crawl space
any material fact.
and you're not planning on fixing it because you say, oh, the offer to purchase it as is. Yeah. So you need to know these things, because if you don't disclose those things that are material fact structural, then I get the phone call and then I have to have a coming to Jesus meeting with y'all about it. Okay. Yes, every offer to purchase is as is. It is not promising a perfect house. Remember that. No perfect house. And if it is perfect, tell me about it, but make sure it's under price. I mean, it's low. Can't afford nothing this way up here. So make sure that you're having that discussion, because what you should be doing is advocating to your seller. Listen, I am a representation of you. When they talk to me, it should be almost like they're talking to you about your home. The only way you figure that out is you gotta be in there. So make sure that you're definitely having that discussion with them. If there are easements on the property, if you had to get to the house and you crossed over somebody else's house to get to theirs, is that something you should be talking about?
Mhm, yes.
Right, because if you're in a little neighborhood where grandma lived here, cousin live over here, yeah, it was okay for them to cross over because they're family. Now you're new and you're not family, and grandma say, well, he can't come cross my way. Y'all about to figure out another way for him to get up in here because he can't come here. Is that a discussion you should have? Not before. Don't do it after someone's under contract. Do it before, okay? So just make sure you do it. We're doing all this construction. You see everywhere we go, there's construction. A sidewalk in a neighborhood should be discussed. Because, and here's the thing, someone called me last week and said, well, you know, they are thinking about it. I said, well, you have two options. Proposed and actually doing. So if they're proposing it, they just don't have a price, then yeah, this needs to be discussed. Can you tell them how much it's gonna cost? No, but can you make that aware to the buyer that this is something coming down the line? I remember one buyer reached out to my team 6 months after they had closed, and they said, no one told us how much it would cost. It was like $1,500 per homeowner, you know, that, you know, house. And they were like, we weren't expecting this. And I said, well, on that little box, it says there was a proposed, but price to be determined. Couldn't tell you how much it cost, but we could tell you that it was coming. We didn't know how much it was going to be, but that's it. So they had no argument, but that was because we had found out that there was something coming on down the wire, we just didn't know what it was. Now, if we had not disclosed that, who would have been on the hook for that 1,500?
Yes.
That agent. I was on the team, so I didn't, you know, I had to worry about it. But I'm just saying, she would have had to take that 1,500 hit because that was something that should have been disclosed because we're an extension of the seller. Okay, remember that. Same, we're extension of the buyer, we're extension of the seller. So
Sharon, on the eastern part,
mhm.
where and how is the best way to find out if there is like utility, something in the property? The search will indicate always or not necessarily?
No, always.
Always,
I had an
okay.
easement on my property and it was for Duke.
Mhm.
Because they went across the road to get to my house and there was nothing left. So that was an easement that I knew about. But at the same time, if you're at the house and you look up and you see a whole bunch of wires going across there, ask the question, hey, is this like, what's going on with this? Oh yeah, they have a utility easement.
Mhm.
Oh, okay then, because you want to know that,
Mhm.
you know. What else could be? If you have cable, that could be an easement.
What about the sewer? The connection that can go through your frontage of your property? I have seen that. Is that could be an easement or that's part of the city public?
If it's a sewer and you're not sharing it with someone else, because now that would be something you would definitely need to share if the sewer is being shared by two households. That would be horrible. I would be like, I would tell my buyer, no, that ain't.
Hey, it happens. Well, and especially in the country, a shared septic and a shared. well.
Especially if you're, like I say, the easement where grandma lived in, so grandma said, oh yeah, let's see, can we extend from there? No.
Put some brakes on some loans too.
It's gonna put some brakes on a lot of stuff, your commission check and everything, because it's not happening. So you have to make sure that, but that's your job, is to search those things. If you're looking for the deed, if you put in that person's name, it will tell you everything. So if you put in Sharon Sunkel for Orange County, it will show all of the easements that went with it, all of the, you know, if I had any refinances or anything, all of that will be shown when you're looking up the deed.
I didn't.
Just look up their name and everything that's associated with plat book, survey, all that stuff is right there. And I print it all off so I can get a good understanding of what's going on. So I can say, hey, look, this easement, it was good, everything, yep, it's good. Because that's how you get to know the property. Because when someone calls you, you can't say, let me check with the seller about something that you should know yourself. Okay, because it's public knowledge. It's different if you don't know. Excuse me, but if you do know, if there are termites, if they've had termites before, should you disclose it if it's been repaired?
Yeah.
What you say, James?
No, you don't have to. If it hasn't, if it's been repaired, you don't have to.
But should you?
Yeah.
I think you should.
Like insurance claims, like insurance claims.
Help
It's
us.
good. It depends on for me, how recent it was.
Mm,
If it was 5 years, they've been in the house 17 years, they did it 5 years ago.
I don't know.
Bring a pest inspection in there. But if it was done like a year ago,
It's close.
They're gonna see the repair anyway.
they're gonna see the
The
repair.
little-
And
the
so they're
trim.
gonna feel like you're being deceptive if you don't share that. It's not to say, if they did it a long time ago, they still may be to see it, depending on who your inspector is. But remember when I said in some of my classes, get to know your inspectors really
Mhm.
well. So you can say, hey, is this gonna be an issue? Nah, this was done a while ago. This is good. I don't see anything. Then you have some of those inspectors that are very ambitious and they want to just like, there's glue on the electrical outlet. You might want to remove the glue, that type of person. Those are not the ones I usually deal with, but I'm just saying, just make sure you get to know your inspector that you're getting to come out. But definitely something that you should think about, okay? Ooh.
Thank you.
Any questions about this? Because this is all really before you can go to the form, okay, to be prepped for it. If you need me to send it later, I'll send it to you.
This presentation?
Yeah,
Yes, please. 5, did we 5 then? Boys, okay.
Hey,
yeah.
situation right now. I have a seller getting ready to take photos of his house.
Mhm.
He called me yesterday. and
The
said-
seller is taking pictures of his house.
No, we're getting ready to take
Oh,
photos
okay.
of the house
All
to
right.
list it, right?
Okay, got you.
He called me yesterday and said, James, the HVAC unit that I already questioned him about upstairs quit working. No heat, no air. My response to him was, I cannot list it as heated square footage if it is not heated. Hey, so y'all know, we went through this one before. Colleen's client, the
Oh,
house,
oh my goodness.
again, seller knew the heat did not work, right? They
Had
advertised it as
window
heated
units
square footage.
outside, right?
Yes, and the clients actually sued the seller. So I'm telling you now, you're not supposed to list it if it cannot heat, and he now has my HVAC guy get it to his house.
Right. Another thing to take into consideration that I didn't list up on any of this stuff, but it is available with home warranties. You can get a home warranty, get a listing warranty where they can go ahead and you can go ahead and list it with the home warranty people. And if something comes up in the midst of you getting it listed, or well, actually, once it's been listed and you get it done, and then between them selling the house, you can actually get them to get work done based on that same listing, that home warranty agreement.
And it's transferable.
And once you finish and you give it a close, you just transfer it from the seller to the buyer. So no,
So they can add it during your listing appointment?
once you list it and you've had them to sign it, then you can sign them up for it. We have all the paperwork in that mail room there. And then that way, if something comes up, they'll pay the deductible and get them to come out and look at it. So in that situation with him, had they had that, then that would be something that he could have went to and said, hey, my HVAC is not working. Can I get y'all to come out and look at it? Pay the deductible, maybe pay you a little bit more, but it still be less than a whole unit.
And transfer that to the buyer.
At their closing, once it's under contract, you would transfer it to them.
And it's
But then
incentive.
you would offer it,
Yeah, it's incentive.
right, you would offer it as a home warranty because you already have it in place. Why not pay? And you can always get the least amount one, I think it's like 3, 5, 400.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
Based on the size of the home.
Mhm.
And you do that
And
before you
what
list it.
they want insured, like they also insure septic field, septic systems, more money, right? So everything is more money based on what you want.
Yeah, but this is a way of covering your
Yeah.
sellers and it's offered and very few people use it. What were you gonna ask?
You want to get that home warranty agreement before you list it, right?
You want to take it with you when they're signing the paperwork, say, hey, let's do a home warranty and you can get it for free it's not free because if you have something come up, you do have to pay the deductible, but they don't have to pay the premium amount.
For 30
So
days,
is it
right?
open to that?
No, it's for the whole, if you have it for a year, you can have that.
So
We
who
haven't
would
had
pay-
a
who would pay
listing
the
that will
premium?
last a year.
Who would pay the premium?
Nobody
You would-
pays a premium until closing.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a no-brainer. Every listing you have, you get this person. We got some here. We got Choice, who's here, and you say, hey, listen, just go ahead and let me put it in and they'll let you do it. This is one of the greatest incentives I've ever had to use it. They've got me out of trouble, saved me like $4,000 for sure. But yes, you got a listing and you can use a home warranty and they will allow you to go ahead and register the seller and everything. And when it gets under contract, you go right back in and it says on the contract, these are the buyers. And then they send to the attorney when it's time to close, an invoice for the seller to pay. It's a no-brainer to do it. I would. So number 5, when you were saying avoid all surprises, that kind of went the same way with special assessments, skeletons in the closet.
okay.
So I skipped over it. Price in the house. How can you price a house in this current market? There's only one answer. How can you price a house in this current market?
Your price is the price it is. You always gonna
There's
get
only one
extra.
answer. You can't. You cannot price it at the level that you thought you could, because now here's a gentleman sitting up in the front who basically said, I got how much over what you listed it for?
Extra.
What I listed it for,
Yes. Wait, let me time out. Let me clear that up.
okay.
What your CMA said versus what you said, you know what, I'm gonna get versus what you actually got.
What I
It's a
did,
threefold.
my situation was a little different. I found a buyer to buy it without listing it. Okay, so what I did was I did an honest CMA
Mhm.
and I said, this is what I believe it's gonna sell, that I've listed for. Knowing the comps in the area, this is where I believe it's gonna sell for. So this is my price. And they said, yes. So that was 74,000.
Did y'all already say, he
Oh,
kind of whispered, he kind of
70.
whispered it like he was like,
74,000.
74,000 over.
Yeah,
The
What is
CMA.
honest CMA? Not to say, well, I'm just saying, so when I say you can't, and people are kind of looking at you and saying, well, what will my house sell for? Whatever a buyer is willing to pay.
Yeah, because Sharon, the problem is right now, I mean, we're having the same thing is, you look at a house today, like I have a CMA done now. And you had 3 closings next week in the same area,
yeah. it's gonna
his
change.
CMA just went up
Yeah.
$30,000, $40,000. And, you know, you're like, well, dang, you know, so we'll decide what your listing price is today when we list it, put it on the market.
I talked to the appraiser that came out. I was very fortunate. The appraiser called me
Because you're the seller.
because I was.
Well,
Yeah.
listing agent.
Yeah.
And you happen to be the
And-
seller.
And I was at the house when they came out
Of course you
and I had
were.
my comps out on the island. You know, although they,
Glad you're sharing this with me now.
although
Right. I was gonna help you, like coffee.
I was busy, you know, I was doing my work, you know. It's also my office. Did I mention that? It's my
Yes,
office.
okay, all right.
So, but, you know, the conversation that I had with her, which was really eye-opening, I said, how do you guys do this? Because it's very difficult.
Right,
I mean, for them, think about it, they see the comps, but they know it's gonna change next week.
right.
And they know with every house that they do in that market, it's gonna continue to grow and change. And she says, well, we have to change it exponentially. We know that.
Mhm,
So when she had the contract with her,
mhm,
so she knew exactly what we sold the house for.
right.
And I told her up front. I said, look, I'm the listing agent, I'm also the owner.
Mhm.
So I was just honest. I said, this is what I did. And not that it's not that's gonna influence you at all,
Right,
but I just, and tell me if I'm not doing it properly, because if I'm not, I want to do it right for all my other clients. That's how I had that conversation. So,
it would be nice for us to
That's a
have an
learning.
appraiser to come in and talk to us
Oh my
about
gosh, yeah.
that, because
I'm working on that right now.
to have an eye opener as to how they come up with it, how they rotate the appraisers, how lenders are using these appraisers.
Yeah.
I will tell you, the last house I sold, well, not last week, but the one before, I was sure, y'all, I was 150% sure it would not appraise.
Yeah.
That's why we bid like we did. We got caught. It wasn't pretty. The house is worth it, but we were still, I like, I should have been an attorney, but I wasn't, because I didn't want to go and spend all that money to become an attorney.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I was like, girl, this is not going to appraise. And then I said, shoot, your lender, he's such robbers. Wells Fargo, I'm friends with them. Look, they got all my accounts. He came in, she said, girl, it appraise, praise the Lord. I said, girl.
my first,
I was like, really?
my first deal,
Yes.
I got into it with someone that told me I was in trouble. I mean, right? I was in trouble. I was legally in trouble. Right, remember that?
Yes.
So, and I said, no, this is how I did it. And I went step by step with you, and I
Yes.
said, this is how I did it. And you
Right.
said, if everybody did it this way, they wouldn't get in trouble,
Right,
right?
right.
And 2 weeks later, it came back and I was $570 under
Right,
what they appraised it at.
right. And
So,
what did you use to do your CMAs?
well, I used obviously comps, right?
No, what did I send to you?
Oh, you sent me the,
Yeah, I sent you my class
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff, so you know what.
yeah.
Okay, I just like to take credit.
Yeah. No, you get all
sometimes.
credit. I give you all credit.
It's all come back to the back.
I do it all the
I can do it
time.
myself.
I do it all
Don't
the
need
time.
the body, I got it.
Love your modesty.
Gotta do it. I worked too hard to get here to
If
not
it's
be
real,
able
it's
to
real.
do it. But no, the reason why I did it, the thing about it was I hated CMAs.
Yeah.
I hated doing them. But I wanted to do them right,
Yeah.
because that was my job. So I did everything I hated doing, I got it right. So that way, whenever I did the class, I explained to him, this is why we come to this. I ain't doing it, but I do it anyway.
The problem I have, Sharon, is there's no standard across the appraisers. So I've asked 3 appraisers this question, and I still do not know what the answer is. What square footage do you give unfinished space?
Unfinished.
So, like, you'll see a lot of new homes will have
Right.
an area upstairs, it's a walk-in area
Right,
for storage. but
that's
it's
not
unfinished, right?
Right,
Yeah,
You got the same home down the street, same size, doesn't have it.
have it, yeah.
What credit do you give this house that has that unfinished walk-in storage area? It could be finished. Yeah, I've had appraisers say $30 per square foot. I've had them say 50. Had one appraiser say, I give it half of the home's value of square footage. What's the right answer?
it depends on who you talking
Which-
to.
And that's what I'm saying,
Which
right?
appraiser you got?
Like my house,
Right,
it was 900 square feet of unfinished space,
Oh, wow.
right? 900 square feet.
I was told, this is what I was told by this appraiser. And I
right,
have- Because I have an attic that's unfinished.
But it's a walk-in.
Walk-in. You have
Okay,
walk-in.
there you go. I have the same thing.
Walk-in. And they said, she said, and this is how I did it. So she said, that's correct. So it obviously worked. She said, treat it as a garage. So I treat it as a 2-car garage, I gave it 10 grand.
Mm,
Okay.
That's what I did. And we came out to almost the same exact dollar.
mm,
I mean, literally almost the same exact dollar.
wow,
I've been told, I talked to 3 separate appraisers. My answer was like $30 square
Yeah.
foot, $50 square foot, and half of the home's value per square foot.
Yeah. I don't think there's a regulation for, I mean, there's nothing.
That's what I'm saying.
But in this market,
There
what's
is-
regulated?
let me disclose this, there is one, whether everybody is
Yeah, yeah.
following it is a different
Yeah, probably.
story.
What's that?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, because I just was like, there's no way you appraise this for what it is. She's excited, because she's like, okay, I don't feel so bad, I just, overpriced, and I was like, girl, you did, but she was the one to give me that nice, review that I posted last night. And then after posting it, I got someone that wants me to help
Where'd you post it? On Facebook?
on my Simply Sharing Business Facebook page.
I have to look.
Yes, I did. I posted it. And listen, this is the sad part. I just found it because I thought I remember sharing it with her. I was like, maybe she didn't write anything. Then I was looking, it was like, oh, you got a review like 2 months ago.
Mm.
Oh,
Was it a Google review? What was it?
it was a realtor.com review.
Okay.
You can ask them for a review once you finish, whether it's on either side.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I definitely, but so now it's kind of crazy to do it. But if you're going to do a CMA, you at least have to do something to start off with, to have a conversation. You gotta have a starting point. I do all my CMAs on Triangle MLS. Why? Because it's a nice little booklet. I share it with my clients before I get there, and they look at it and they say, oh, I saw your comps, and let's talk about it. But that's the starting point. This is what's selling. This is I don't like the active because we don't know what it actually sells for. But definitely if it's under contract, I know someone's giving something to it. And then, of course, the best way is to know what is actually sold. And it's very difficult if you're in a neighborhood and nothing is sold in. Nobody wants to leave. You can find that in Chapel Hill. There are a whole lot of places people like, no, we ain't going nowhere. This is old money over here.
Yeah.
So you can't find it. Whereas in Raleigh, you got these ever changing, people are coming in and out. So it's kind of difficult, but go back as far as 2 years, but understand we've been in a crazy market for a year. It's been over a year now. Since July of 2020, it's been absolutely crazy because desperate. Well, actually it was before that. It was during COVID. Woo, last year was my best year in real estate, selling houses. This year's has surpassed it. I'm at my goal. I was at my goal for how much I want to sell last 2 months ago. Everything else is overflow. What were you gonna ask?
I was gonna ask, like, with all the stuff out, like third-party websites, as far as like, estimates and rates and things like that, that client may see prior to you getting to an appointment. If we have the CMA and stuff that we did, how would you have that conversation, I guess, with the seller, with a Zillow estimate?
Oh, it's up there because Zillow now gets in with Triangle MLS. So when I do my CMA and I get ready to send it to them, I put an X and they don't send a Zestimate.
Okay.
They only send mine. So when they go to me and they say, oh yeah, I saw on Zillow the head, and I said, oh, I always have an address that I can pull up that I know has closed, that's showing it's still active. And I said, see, this is not even accurate. This will get closed. And all of a sudden they're like, oh gosh, I didn't know that. I've been going to Zillow and I'm thinking that, no, they're not good. They're not accurate. So don't go by that. They told you, and I pull up my own house and I said, oh yeah, they said my house is worth this amount, this how much I sold it for. They're like, oh, okay, because I'm giving them real time stuff, not stuff that I just threw up in the air and said, let's see how it roll. Who did that? That's football thing. Somebody throws it up. And they lose the game. Okay. So I definitely come prepared to have that conversation because they're wanting to know what services can you provide to me that ensure that you will sell my house at the top dollar and that I'll get everything done that I need to get done. And your answer has to be, I've sent you this CMA. Let's sit down and talk about it. And I'm gonna share some other stuff. I meant to print out another thing, but I'll send it to y'all or print it out before y'all leave. But definitely make sure you start having that conversation. What are the different things? Because like I say in number 2, it says, when a house is priced too low, your seller loses money. If it's priced too high, everybody question what's wrong with the house. Our Lord knows I do. Right now, if I see a house and then it's on the market for like 2 weeks, I'm like, something wrong with that house. Because everybody else is selling within hours being on the market. And then you ask the question, and of course, do y'all know, everybody can go back and look at the history. If it's been under contract on Triangle MLS, if it's listed on, in Triangle MLS. Hit that history button, you'll see, oh, it was under contract and then it fell through. Now, let me explain something to y'all. Every agent will tell you that the buyer's finances fell through. Well, yeah, it fell through if you wouldn't replace the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, your roof is bad, but it's the buyer's problem. Oh, yeah, right. Your roof is bad. So just make sure that you look at it, but you ask, questions. I like to pull their old, I love it when they've already been listed in the Triangle MLS, because it's easy for me to pull it instead of trying to make it myself. And then if I have to make it myself, I go to the CRS. Now, there was one that in the previous tenure of the PC program where they would recommend you go to RPR or something. No? There was one agent that come to me and said, oh, I got it listed. He was like 50, 60,000 over. I did 3 different CMAs and 3 different MLSs. None of them came to the 50,000 that his was over. And so I had a talk with that PC coach and I said, this is not a good one to be referring to people because it's not coming out with accurate information. So just make sure Triangle is really good. I've been using it now for probably about, I've been with Keller Williams 13 years, so 13 years. And we didn't always have Paragon. We had some different ones before that, but Paragon is pretty good. And that CMA is very good. It's very simple to do. Here's the one thing I would like for you to, I don't do it. If you feel like you're comfortable doing it, that's fine, but then I want you to be able to back it up. When it asks me for adjustments, I leave it alone. When you're doing the CMA, I do not do any adjustments. I have no idea how much the difference will be, if it's a pool or not a pool, if they have a garage, I don't know.
What about square footage? You do that?
Square footage, absolutely. But when it comes to improvements,
Right.
I don't know those things. So because of that, when I ask people to stay in their lane, stay in your lane. I had a car when I was in Germany, and every time I moved over, it would beep. I was like, dang, it's beeping. Every time I move, it's beeping. Stayed in my lane, but I was in the Autobahn. I said, I don't care. I'm driving like 200 miles per hour. I'm good. As long as I don't hit this side. But stay in your lane because you don't know what that thing. And if you give them information, they're listening to you. And the first thing they say is, well, my agent told me that it was, it was going to be this amount. Because you don't know. Leave it to the appraiser. Get a friend who's an appraiser who will say to you, hey, this is what we do average, because understand appraisals are rotated. To try to keep down the, the ethical thing going on, that they're not getting buddy with somebody. But if you have a friend and you say, hey, what is the average for, replacement for a roof? Well, you don't have to ask an appraiser for that. You can just ask the roofer. You know what I'm saying? But the inspector, and this is the other thing, understand when the inspectors are inspecting your seller's house, they are hired by the buyer. So yeah, they're not gonna give you a pat on the back about your house. They're gonna list everything. Okay, so just make sure that you're absolutely, when you're doing a CMA, that's another class, and I'm not gonna get into it, but definitely CMAs are always good to have as a presentation. Beautiful presentation. They like it. They think I really took a lot of time with it. Takes me about 10 minutes. But they were like, I love how you just you really put some effort in. I said, I know, right?
I know, right?
Hey, and all them other little things, it's about, hey, good things to know to move. And all that stuff.
Yes,
Hey,
they
that thing
love
you did all
it.
that, hey, I'll tell you, it does make a difference.
It does make a difference.
Yes, it does.
Now, some of the things I do want you to do when you're doing the CMA, these are the things, okay, so everybody said how to conduct a full proof. I don't know if we can do that now. Used to be we could, but when you're doing a CMA, okay, the aspects that you need to look for. And the first thing I put, the price of other houses in the neighborhood that's recently sold, that's similar in size and features. So if you got a ranch, you're selling a 2-story house, a split level house, they're not similar. Now, can you at least say these houses are selling in the neighborhood? Yes. Can you use it if you don't have a 2 or 3? Maybe. I would definitely pull them in, but I would put in the ones I like to make sure they match almost pretty much the same square footage. I like to be within 100 square feet of that. So you can shorten it so you can pull only what's in that square footage, okay? Can't compare a 2-bedroom with a 4-bedroom. Doesn't work, it just doesn't work. It don't matter about how the kitchen look, and I mean, that's irrelevant. But some of the features definitely, you need to make sure. If they have a garage and one doesn't have a garage, that's a difference, huge difference. Okay, if they're sitting on a lot that's 0.125 acres, you got one over here that's like 4 acres. It's a difference. So make sure you're doing that. Any improvement upgrades, like I say, a pool for me, because I had one, is a liability. I believe if someone give me a house and said there's a pool in it, I would say, give me another house. Unless you got a pool boy that you're gonna pay, because I can't pay him to come here and maintain it. It's a lot of work. But some people, if you're entertaining all the time, it's the best thing ever. But for me, I always had my kids. I don't know why they thought that they need to bring their friends over there, that if they drowned, I would be like in debt for the rest of my life. Or go to jail because I'm gonna kill them for bringing them. So, and then nobody wins. I'll be a pimp in the house, but that's it. I'm just saying.
We don't need the visual.
Well, listen, I have to do it if I have to pay. But the thing about it is that for some people, that's a great thing. I was telling some ladies yesterday, they were talking about how beautiful, how you can go in some houses and they have the little waterfall and the rocks and everything. How you have the waterfall, you have the flat rocks and everything. And I said, I had them all over my house. Everybody thought it was beautiful. But I realized underneath every one of those rocks were baby snakes. This is how my ex-husband and I was riding down the road and there was a snake in the truck. And we're riding down the road. And we don't know how he got in it, but he was in it. So for me, if I see a waterfall, I'm crying because I'm like, oh no. I took every single one of them rocks out. I pulled my rib out in my back, getting every single one of them flat rocks out of my house, out of my front yard. It made it beautiful.
You don't like snakes?
Well, it was a good thing I was married to a white man when that snake went around his neck, around his leg while he was driving. Because let me tell you something. A brother would have jumped out and left all of us up in there. Let me tell you, we'd have been dead. We couldn't tell the story. You know it, right?
He said, I'm gone.
Right. Open the door and be gone. And we'd be like, what's going on? We in the traffic. We was in the fast lane. That snake was that long and wrapped around his leg while he was driving.
Oh, Lord.
In the car. And where were we going, y'all? To the zoo. Where did the kids want to go? Let's go see the snakes. Let's go see. Thank God mine always had played with snakes. He was okay, but he was freaking out later because I was like, if I'd been driving, I'd have killed every one of us. All of us.
Yeah.
Thank God he came out with him and not on the side with me. So that would be something that wouldn't be a plus for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm serious though. That snake wrapped around his leg. I would not be, my dad was like, I never really liked the fact that y'all got married, but I like the fact that he was in that vehicle that day. He saved my children, my grandbabies. But that would be not a plus for me. You see what I'm saying? But for someone else, they go in the house and they got the nice little thing. So you just have to make sure that those improvements is something somebody wants. I personally just say, okay, that's a plus. I don't put it in my CMA. Okay. How much are other houses on the market selling per square foot? I know everybody don't believe that, but yeah, it's per square foot. That's where you come up with the number. Square foot. Have I known to be doing a CMA and I see a house is sold a significant amount, like maybe his, and I remove it? Because it won't make sense for me. I'm in there trying to tell you what I feel like it sells. We may not know what it will sell for, but I have to come in giving you an educated guess of what I think it would sell for. So I would remove one that's significantly higher and significantly lower, because I'm trying to get to the meats and potatoes of where it would sell. And then I look at them and say, but hey, people are giving 30 and 40,000 over, so we're gonna just toss it in there and see what happens. But that's one of the things that we do, and that's why we do it. What in the market that you're selling? What is the market that you're selling the property like? Now, Is it a balanced market based on the sellers and buyers? Because the one thing that I definitely have noticed, especially in Durham, is we're having what we call regentrification of some homes that used to sell for 60,000. People bought the house and built a $400,000 house next to a $60,000, $70,000 house. How can you do a CMA on that?
Similar to downtown Raleigh.
Is it happening downtown
Yeah,
Raleigh
it
too?
is. Yeah.
So,
They're tearing down the old, smaller houses,
Mm-hmm.
and they're building beautiful homes. Well, they're doing one right up the street. Y'all see
I was
that
gonna
big-
say across the
Yeah,
street.
yeah.
so
thing's gonna
because
be
of
huge.
that,
Okay.
that CMA, it's really difficult. So before CMA was our best tool, and now it's like just a starting point. Because I remember selling a house when I was on a team before I became an agent. These two young couple, they had acquired this house for grandma. It valued at about $65,000, $70,000. We put it on the market. It sold for $335,000. $335,000. And the problem is, we couldn't do a CMA on that anyway, because they paid cash for it. They didn't want the house. They wanted the property to build a $500,000 house on.
Yeah.
And make $200,000 off of it. Those kids didn't care, it was grandma's house.
Right.
Can I get a Sharon answer?
Yes,
I hear this all the time. And I know how I say it. You're at a property, you're talking to a seller, giving him all this information. Your CMA says, and I'm choosing numbers, your
Right.
CMA says the house is 500,000,
right,
and they say this. Well, we talked to this realtor, and he says we can get 600,000 or 550, right?
Mhm.
You just cannot get to that number, right? I'm not gonna allow somebody to get the business, I just won't do it. Right?
yeah, I tell them, I said, well, you know what, I mean, just being honest with you, let them list it for you.
Yeah, I mean, what I've been telling him is, did he justify that with comps that I'm showing you today? And were they comparable to your actual home?
Right,
Because if they haven't showed you that in paper, because a lot of realtors out there right now are telling what they want to hear.
and here's the
Whatever they
problem,
say they want for the house, oh, I'll get that for you.
right,
Because
and
I
here's
just
the
want them under contract.
Yeah, and here's the problem with that. At some point, I keep telling everybody, and I can tell now, just by what's coming into this office, that the appraisals are starting to be reprimanded for some of the stuff they do, because some of them, they're not going with that big old number that's overpriced. And if I can tell y'all how many times I've had to in the last 2-3 months, where I've had to talk to agents in this office about how this person is wanting to get out of it because it's not appraised and they can't come up with an answer, is how to fix this appraisal. Because if you're bidding on a house for $250, you put down and say, I'm gonna go over it because it's competitive, $275. And then the appraisal comes back at $260, but you haven't signed something saying we'll pay the difference. And the seller's not budging because they're like, hey, we had it at this price. It's not our fault you put this amount of money in it. Because you bid 25, 30,000 over it, and we accepted it because we would be stupid not to. But now all of a sudden you're saying it won't appraise, so can you come down? So I think some of the appraisers are kind of saying, okay, because before it would appraise for whatever that amount was. And so now all of a sudden I'm seeing this shift where it's not appraising. Because I'm quite sure there were people that wrote in and said, these appraisers are jinky. They're not doing it right. I don't care what you say. Every house in here is sold this amount, and you're telling me that this house over here can sell for 20,000 more than the most recent one is sold? That's BS, it's not. So I'm starting to see it, and every single time I'm like, and what happens is, here's where it to me becomes unethical, is when, and I have to say this because I have represented sellers and buyers, when the seller will not come down a little bit, okay? And they say, well, just terminate. Yeah, you terminated, but you just got $20,000 of due diligence that you just bought a pool with for the next house you're gonna move to, because you're gonna definitely sell this one. And you're gonna put it back on the market and get more money. Come on, y'all, somewhere that's gotta balance out. Keller Williams about win-win. I'm now arguing with a woman about something real stupid and, yeah. She bought some stuff out of me right before I come to the class, that's why I was late. But what I'm saying is that can't be right. So you got someone keep saying, because what happens is, listen, agent, my thought process is they're saying, if they don't want it, then just terminate. You already got the due diligence money.
And then also too, that appraisal addendum. Yeah, I get it, but like, I don't really think it's fair.
Well, here, there are three different types. One is to say that the seller will come down to the appraised amount. You could use that one. The second one says the buyer will pay the difference. And the third one is they'll negotiate and come to a reasonable amount, that's this price. So if it's $250 and that buyer says, okay, I'm gonna sign an appraisal addendum, I will pay up to $260 for it. So if the appraisal comes back and it's $255, then guess what? The buyer needs to pay $5,000 and the seller needs to come down to that amount. But that's a lot of thinking for trying to get this to happen. Whereas for me,
Here's my problem. How can you hold anybody accountable for it? Because in the end, if the buyer walks, he loses due diligence money. If the buyer says, hey, I just don't want to do it, all he's losing is due diligence money.
Depending on how much you put down.
yeah, but if you-
Right, but that's what I'm saying, right? And if the seller says, hey, I'm not gonna lower the price.
Yeah.
Where's the,
Accountability, there's no.
there's no accountability in that document.
it's not, but I think what's gonna happen is in this year of us doing it, next year, you're gonna see something new on that.
That's an
offer
official
purchase.
document.
That's
Yeah,
gonna
not
change it,
just a,
because I can tell you, I just signed for a man to get on Friday a due diligence check, and that due diligence check was $75,000.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
That they wrote in a check,
well, Mark has money, $500,000.
$75,000. And I looked at him, I said, do you want me to walk you to your car with it? In case you lose it, I wanna make sure you keep it. I just signed for you that you got it.
Mark's was $500,000.
Due diligence.
Due diligence,
Oh, it was the price of the house.
that 2 point, that the big house is.
Yeah.
But even so, $500,000.
Yeah, that's.
And they walk away, that person got $500,000, that's enough to go buy another house for your kid.
Well, my thing is.
2 kids, 3
If
for
you've
mine.
if you've never had a client that's had something happen to them during that time frame, and fortunately I have, the last boss that I worked for, last company I worked for, she had a client that she was a single lady, her mom died when she had a house on the market. Right? She went to move to Arizona then, and the seller was cool, he gave all her money back,
That's very.
but they don't have to.
No.
What happens like that if something happens in your life?
And my thing is, I'm always saying to the listing agent, can you sellers, I mean, they're gonna get this money back because someone else is gonna bid on it. And I'm like, but, I mean, is that fair to the seller? Hell, yes, it is.
Yeah, 'cause you wanna win.
You're gonna still sell your house on recorded. Y'all, God represents hell. Okay, he knows heaven and hell. Okay.
Yeah, but what happens with the due diligence check more, like say $75,000, like you said? What if they don't have enough equity in the house to get that money back at closing? And because they don't, and the buyer gave them $75,000, they only had $50,000. Now the seller's got to come to the table with $25,000, and he's already spent money.
On the house doesn't close. Yeah, that actually came
I
up.
mean, I just think it for
That actually came
me,
up, that's a scenario.
I just think that's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my personal opinion. But then I look at my buyer, but also I look at myself when I am advising my buyers about what to put down. I look at them, I say, can you lose it?
Walk away.
I
Can
said
you
that.
walk away from this money?
I
Let me
say
tell
that
you
all the
something.
time.
I sold the young lady that helped her buy a house, you may tell you the most she put down, $1,000. And when my seller sold her condo in Durham, she only got $500. And it was $5,000 less than what I put it up there for, because I told her, I said, I did a CMA, trust me, I've been doing this. She said, well, no, let's go 150. I said, you're not gonna get that in this raggedy townhome, okay? You're not getting this. And so when the 145 come in, she said, let me think about it. I said, you go right ahead. She come back an hour later, said, let's go. Because I had it at 140, she wanted 150, so we got in the middle, so I said, run with it. And when the water was leaking and it was like going into the other people's houses, and I said, can you at least get a plumber to come out here and stop this water from leaking? Because now your next door neighbor has had hardwood flooring and is having a problem. You know what she said to me? No. They knew it when they put it offer in, they listed it, and this is why they give me 5,000 less than what I asked for. And I was like, it would take but like maybe $100 for you to fix, her house was paid for, she only owed 6,000 of
Yeah.
it. So she was getting $145,000
Wow.
profit,
Wow.
and you couldn't spend $100 going to stop this here? But I had to do what she asked me to do. And it was a referral by one of my college friends, so I was just like, dang, I don't want to bust that opportunity. And I just said to her, I said, I just think you could have done it. And I would have done it, but I was just like, nah, I'm not gonna do it this time. And so when the guy who next door, he called me, he said, hey, you know, did you ever find out about it? I said, it's got a new owner, dude. You gotta go knock on their door and find out what's going on. But she was adamant, I'm not paying for it. When I tell y'all the water was leaking, it was like a fountain.
That's crazy.
And she was like, I'm not gonna fix it. Because the buyer's agent listed, I'm not giving you this extra 5,000 that you were asking, that, you know, I could give you for it because it's leaking. So she said they'd acknowledge it. They could have went and got someone to fix it. Why? They don't own it yet. You know, and it was a first time buyer. And she said, well, it's an investment property. I said, okay, do you. So I didn't even, you know, I didn't even question it. I just said, wow. But that's what I'm saying. I just think that's wrong. So I hope they fix it and clean it up because right now it doesn't look good. So when doing a CMA, you break it into 4 areas, of course, of where you're gonna look listings that are active, pending, sold. It's a listing that's been withdrawn only once you conducted all necessary things. I don't use the withdrawals. Because withdrawals mean they didn't come to some agreement. I don't take it out. This was in here, but I don't even put withdrawal in at all. I go with sold, I go with contingent, and then I glance at the actives. I can remove it and not include it because it hasn't sold, but if it's up there for more than a couple of days, it's not included in my CMA anyway.
We
Because
need to add coming soon, even if, you know.
No.
Okay.
Only reason why I don't add coming soon is because most of the time it's a sight unseen and it's a crazy amount of money. And so I'm just like, I don't even want to go. That's what I call a wish list for me. So yeah. Go ahead.
I have a question. It's related to the MLS.
Mhm.
What is the major difference between the pending status and the contingent?
Pending means
Contingent is when there's, and listen, understand this new offer to purchase could care less about contingent. You know, they do not, you know, you don't have a reason to say, I can't follow through with this, you know, house being under contract because my lender stuff, my finances is not working out. That's no longer a tool for you to use to get out of closing on a house. That is the buyer's problem as to their finances. You used to kind of throw it back at the seller. The seller felt guilty and said, okay, we can't close, we'll terminate. Now you can't do that. And if you do, the seller can sue, because breach, and get earnest money in that. So yeah, most of my earnest money has been $1,000. So I'm like, if you lose that, they're like, yeah, but for these people that's doing 75,000, then 10,000 here is brutal. But definitely, you know, something to think about when you're talking to your seller. Okay. And so the pending means, right, the pending means that it's went past the due diligence period.
Okay.
And it's going to sell one way or the other, whether by force or just in compliance.
Okay.
That's the difference. If you go, we're in 5 different MLSs, okay? And Triad is not contingent, it's pending or pending showing, still showing still allowing showings. So it's different, they don't use contingent, it's pending or pending with showings.
Why some agent put from active, they go straight to pending?
Why did they do what now?
They go from active and then the status changed to straight to pending.
Because they don't know any about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that is how that contingent means contingent. It used to be, they ask you about if you have a house to sell, but that's irrelevant. If you put in the house, and I didn't, when my client put in her offer to buy a house, it was contingent upon her selling her house, but I knew she would sell her house within an hour. So I was like, this house is selling within an hour. Everybody want to get in this neighborhood. She want to get out. So it's a no brainer. And so they went, but we had a cash offer. They never sold a house. I didn't even give them a key. I don't even know how they got in. But yeah, so make sure you do it. When you're setting and you're talking to your clients, one of the things that you have to do, of course, with staging, decluttering the home, is making sure, I showed a picture of all the clutter and not. Make sure you tell your clients, y'all know how many houses we went in where I wanted to take and start wiping the counter down. It was so, come on, I mean, even if you're a listing agent, if you know you got some showings and you already know it's gonna be a lot of people, go in there and wipe down and make sure. I had been in there with a broom sweeping. And I was just like, come
I
on.
clean
Makes
bathrooms,
difference.
I didn't open house, I clean bathrooms.
Yes. And if it's a lot of, you know, I went in one house where it was, I'm allergic to smoke. And I went in one with my clients and she said, don't come in because the smoke is so bad. And you can circulate as many fans as you want, but if they've been smoking in that house, there ain't nothing, it's in the walls, it's in the curtain, and that's okay if that's what you want to do. But don't put up there as a non-smoking house. And you come in and all you smell is smoke. Okay, make sure you let them know if you want to smoke that cigarette, go outside. And my ex smoked for years. You couldn't smell no smoke in my house because he was outside. Rain, sleet, snow, he was outside smoking. Curb appeal. If someone, and they have called me as a broken charge and said, hey, you got a listing agent and the grass is this yay high. Find somebody to cut the grass. You get a commission, what is it called, $30, $40 for somebody to come out and cut the grass for your client. But then get the bill, submit the bill to the attorney and say this needs to be paid by the seller out of his proceeds. I got the grass cut, so it looks nice. Just, you know, it just doesn't look good. And then the neighbors will always call me. The neighbors will call me and say, hey, your agent got this house, it's a disgust, it's a disgrace. He got trash all over here and everything. It's like, what you want me to do? Give me a sample. What you want me to do? You want me to drive out there and get my stuff? Whoever. I said, not today. I'm not going out there. I said, I'll call the agent and tell them they need to do it. And it was his own house. I was like, Lord.
Love that.
Storage.
Right, it's okay if there's a storage sitting there, that comes with it, they're trying to move it. But if you got trash piled up and all this other stuff, and he wasn't even moving. That was just doing the process, open house.
That doesn't say buy me, I don't know what.
And what's nasty is when you go to MLS and say you have a buyer for a potential property, it fits all their needs.
Right.
But the inside looks so crazy and just the pictures.
Oh, no.
And this it's a guarantee no.
Right, well, I'm looking now, I'm starting to look because I'm ready to buy my house now. And I was looking and this nice thing, and I said, okay, you don't show me no pictures of the inside, just nice picture, 5 pictures of the outside.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's jacked up on the inside. Now, if you okay with that, that's fine, but when you get there and everything is just like trash. I have been, one lady in New York, she was like, I want to go look, she wanted me to go to Winston-Salem. And I was like, okay, I know some people, I can go to that area. I went in there and she wanted houses where there was a hole in the ceiling. She said, but I need to get out of New York. I said, babe, stay where you are. Because here, you're gonna need more than 30. She went and got all her money out to buy this house for $35,000. She got this agent there and she called me and said, can you help me? No, I can't help you. You just signed a contract with somebody else. She said, well, she told me she was gonna do it. I went and took all my money out of the bank and I'm gonna buy this house. And I said, have you seen the inside of the house? She said, no, but I need somebody to go look at it. I said, you can't tell from the pictures. I know she was older and I wanted to be respectful, but I said, the pictures show you this house is a mess. She said, well, can you find someone that can help me? I said, how much extra money do you have to fix this house? Because the roof is gone. The HVAC looked like somebody stole it because there ain't nothing out there. And the whole inside is gutted. She said, maybe 20,000. I said, not in this lifetime.
Mhm.
You know, so I had, and she was a referral from an agent here who I was helping with the sale. But make sure that you have it, make it sure it looks its best. And you tell your clients, and when you have it on the, you know, listed, tell them kids, clean your room before they leave. Don't have, I love how people take pictures and they'll pull the blanket up, the pillow up, and you can tell everything's jacked up.
Yeah.
And you already telling your clients, so you sure you want this house? Because needs some work to it. So make sure you do that. Make sure when you go, when I go, trying to keep good time. When I go, I want to make sure that I take, if I don't take these documents with me, I have shared the documents. I bring my laptop so we can go over it. Because your job is to do what with that working with real estate brochure.
Present it,
Present it and do what with it?
it's on.
Besides that, there's something in between.
Explain it.
Explain it.
How?
We have to explain what our role is, okay? So that way they'll know and know what role we're taking on, okay? So always make sure you have that, the listening agreement. I like to take one with me just so I can write in the information. And then I can tell them, say, listen, I'm gonna write in all this information and I'm gonna go back to the office. Send it to y'all through DocuSign. Why? In case they change their mind. They decide they want to do something different. They decide, oh, we taking that nice $3,000 or $4,000 refrigerator. And make sure you go ahead, because what happens, they talk to you, they all excited and everything, then you leave, and then husband and wife sitting, laying in the bed, and they talking about it, and they said, maybe we should go up on the price, maybe we should do more. Just make sure you sign it, and then that gives you time to write the information in, and you discussed it, you had that conversation with them. The residential property disclosure, what better way than allow them, you don't have to get them to sign it on DocuSign. I'm telling them right now, while they're filling out the form for the residential property disclosure, what should you be doing? Because it takes time for them to go through it. It's 4 pages.
Look at the house, yeah.
Absolutely. Say, you mind if I just go by? And I bring a graph sheet. Now you can have some, I get like a graph pad, because what I'm doing is I'm going around and making notes. Because when I come back and sit down with them, I'm gonna look at the residential property disclosure and see if they've listed some things that maybe I need to go look at and have a discussion with them. So that residential property disclosure is only supposed to be completed by the sellers, not you fill it out because grandma can't see. Get somebody else in there to look at it with you. Why? Because everything they say, they can be held reliable and accountable for, okay?
I got a question. So say for example, in that residential property disclosure, just like I had not too long ago, just a couple days ago, pretty much that the seller tries to update the RPD after the contract is signed. In a sense, dude, like, you know, is it a way out like that? Because that's definitely not, you know, I guess ethical, like, you know.
It's definitely not ethical, but and if they haven't had a conversation with you, then what should happen is you should send an email to them and said, hey, listen, I noticed that you have updated this residential property disclosure and I've copied my broker in charge on it. Just want to make sure that this is something that should have been shared with me and my clients prior to y'all changing it. We didn't have a discussion about it. Now it's something new. The one we have is the original one.
Right.
Okay, so that's the one we have.
So like say for example, mine was just party walls. So it was just,
I saw the party, yeah, the
right,
party
it was
walls.
just party walls. So that was nothing new to us.
Right.
But say if it was something else, right?
Oh,
Something
say
that
if it was like there's a leak in the roof in the kitchen
Right, so I'm
that
saying, like,
just
if I wanted-
started.
If my clients wanted to back out at that point, will that due diligence up for grabs still? Like it's still on the hook, or they're still up before?
When you sign the offer to purchase, the house is as is. Okay, listen to me what I'm saying though. It's as is. When you get the due diligence, it's supposed to be non-refundable. But if you can make an argument that this is something that happened that will show that the seller has been deceitful and breached the contract, you can get your money back.
Okay.
But you have to show that. So, because we're not an attorney, we have to speak to the attorney we've hired to represent that residential property, that residential closing to say, is this something that we can get out of? It's nothing like getting a letter from that attorney that says, this seems like me or be a breach of the contract.
Okay.
And that we feel that the due diligence is due back. That's when that happens. We can't interpret the law, but they definitely can as the attorney. And that's why we always, someone asked me, said, you know, do I have to put an attorney up there? Well, you can put an attorney to be determined. But if you put an attorney to be determined, that means you haven't really had a good conversation with your buyer as to who they're gonna represent. We have two preferred attorneys here. And there are other ones that I'd be more than happy to refer that I know have did some good work in here. But there's no excuse why you can't have one. And once you have one and you submit that contract to them, guess what? They are now your attorney that you would ask questions about because they're supposed to represent the buyer. Now, in cases with new construction, the only caveat with that is a lot of time they butter you up and say, hey, you use our preferred lender, our preferred attorney will give you this, or we'll take off this, and we do that. So then ultimately what you're doing is you've got your buyers being represented by the seller's attorney. How good is that gonna work for them? But you wanna save that $1,000. Well, okay, that's great. How many people know that when you're doing a new construction, you should have a home inspection? I didn't never do one because I've never done a new construction, but people will do it. You know how many times we see stuff wrong? I did it with my own house, but yeah.
Yeah, because on new constructions, I think sometimes builders, in a sense, would they're not.
Jack you up,
Yeah, they shady too.
jack
16
you up.
years ago.
Save them the most money as well too.
15
Yeah.
years ago when I bought this house, I had it built, and we had an inspector come in, and they found out that the pylons underneath
Mhm.
were not connected. To the
What?
floor- to the floor.
What?
They were pretty, they looked good, but they weren't connected.
My ex-husband took 6 months off from June to when they said they'd build it to November when we closed, November day. He said, I'm not missing a day. Lucky for me, he had made a lot of money and had it stacked up and I was working. But he would go out there with that inspector when he came from the county and said, this don't look right. I think you should, okay. And he would make them do it. That's why at the end of it, we got close to $10,000 back because we went back and said, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And even the paint job, they didn't even finish. They came in 2 days after we moved in and said, we had whole family of people. I'm not gonna say where they're from. Whole family came to paint the house. And I said, what are y'all doing? They're like, yeah, we come to paint the house. I said, we closed on the 8th. This is Saturday. We closed on Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
Today is Saturday. We paint your house. Y'all didn't paint it before? So, yeah, we had to repaint that house over and over again because they put the wrong paint down. My ex put light colored carpet with clay outside. And my children,
Beautiful,
oh yes,
beautiful.
the mud.
Sharon, I have a question. When the owners draw a line all the way, no representation, is
Mhm.
that not the best practice, or what's your opinion about it?
That's a owner that knows there are probably problems with the house, but they don't want to accept the responsibility, so they just say no
So
representation.
raising red flags?
Or they rented the house.
Or they rented the house,
And they
or
haven't
it's
been
in,
there.
yeah, so they have it, but 95% of the time, it's the seller saying, I know there's some issues with the house, but I'm not saying, that's all.
So it's raising red flags, kind of? Is raising red flags, kind
Well, for me, it does.
Okay.
The last few times that's happened, I've told my inspector, this is what they did,
Yeah.
and he just digs in.
Yeah,
More.
because then at that point, they're just saying, we're not accepting any responsibility.
Right.
Now, if it's a son, parents passed away and they're selling the house, yeah, he lived in it at some point if they had it for a long period of time. But he's saying, I haven't lived in it, so I don't know what has went missing of it. Those people are just saying, I don't want to accept responsibility for what I didn't know.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say.
Right, so sometimes you don't know.
Yeah.
Now, my parents, if they sold their house, well, they wouldn't because I stay in it. It's a nice house and it's been rent free. They never had a mortgage. I don't know how they got away with that. They never had a mortgage ever. To
God
build a
bless them.
house and say, yeah, God bless you, yeah. So make sure that you bring it. Then I got bring the TMLS form to discuss features of the house and then set up times for measurements and photos. Photos, you cannot put one photo in. You have to put 3.
I got flagged.
Okay, yes. If it's land, you can put 1. If it's house, you gotta put 3. Front, side, back, whatever you wanna do. 2 in the front, 1 in the back, whatever. You gotta have that, especially in the coming soon stage. Once you get the other one, you probably need to do a little bit better job of doing it, but go ahead and make sure that you schedule it for a time. It's hard to get it when the sun is out. Bye, see you later. But definitely make sure that you do that, and measurements, it is required. You cannot pull from the from the tax thing and put up there, this is what I think it is. You gotta have something. Carol Woodyard does it. I think she does like 75 for a certain amount of square footage, and that. Consider that as a service that you provide to your clients. So definitely the square footage, it is to be accurate on there. If you list it as a basement, if you don't put how much the square footage is, you will be flagged. I get every single violation comes to me. And I just be like, I'm not even gonna reach out to them because they'll be like, oh God, Sharon knows. So make sure you do it. The TMLS form, I'm gonna send that to all y'all. It is a feature form. And what it does is when you're sitting down with your client, you can ask them questions outside of the residential property disclosure, and it will give you all the features and you can do it. It makes it easy for you to put it in the MLS because you filled out all of the forms, you wrote a couple of things. If there's something you want to say, like I say, I had one client and I was not an agent at the time, and she wanted, us to take pictures of the house, but she wanted to be in all the pictures.
It's fun.
And she would pose like Vanna White by the garage, and we would cut her out, and she would send us a thing to I noticed that picture doesn't look like the same one we took. Yeah, because we took you out of it. So make sure.
I do, by the way, I do.
And Robert, the tech guy, does photos, so 2 people here does those.
Also, a good friend, I didn't realize that's what he did for a living till he saw my posts. I put it on the Raleigh.
Our private page.
Yeah. So I posted him on there. Check out his page. He does amazing work.
What'd you
And
say
it's
his
really
name was?
reasonable. What's up?
What'd you say his name was?
Courtney, look it up here. I'll send it.
What is it for pictures?
Pictures, yeah.
Does he do drone?
Video,
Okay,
drone, he
good.
does the whole bit.
Good.
Not like that, he does personal pictures too, the headshots. He does.
And remember,
He's an amazing photographer.
good, and remember, if you're doing videos, the MLS frowns upon you having any picture that brands your video. Remember that. If it does, you will get fined for that because they do not want it branded. So if you have a picture and your sign is there, take your sign up, let them take a full picture of the house and then put your sign back up. But if they can visualize or see a sign in the yard, it's a flag. Okay, that's for videos, that's for pictures
The video that's advertising you. I mean,
of the house. When you take a picture of the house, we call it a visual tour. You cannot have.
Sign that.
You cannot
advertises
have
you.
no sign of you as the agent in none of the pictures. You can't have a card up there and say, call me. You can't do no branding at all. You can do it on other websites, but you can't do it on the MLS.
I don't know if you went over this or not, I know I came in a little late, but pretty much say you have a house, right, but you did work to your house, right? So how do you know to factor in, or what price to factor something in? So say, for example, the house came with carpet, but by the time I'm ready to sell, I have hardwood floors, I have, brand new appliances, and things like that, granite countertops, the whole 9, like from where it didn't have before.
Right.
How would you go about pricing as far as that stuff, or would it even make a difference?
I don't think it will make a difference. It's good you improve the house.
Yeah.
It doesn't really
It
make
can
a
hurt you
difference.
though. It could, if you're.
It hurts your pockets because you want $20,000 that you spend in new appliances, hardwood flooring,
Yeah.
all this stuff. But most of the time people are like, I spent $20,000 in my house. Yeah, but that was your beautification for it. That may not be for the buyer. They might have been like, I'd have been fine with that old carpet, shag carpet in there.
Right, because what you've done to it,
That's what you did. That was your personal choice.
But if the carpet's in bad shape and the kitchen's in bad shape, that could hurt your value.
Right.
So it's on the other
It's on
side.
the other side of
Right.
making sure that it looks
Yeah.
good, so you can get top dollar for that,
Right.
you know? So open houses, I'm gonna go briefly over, who has not done an open house? Y'all good? Y'all good with that? Open houses, listen, y'all, I've told y'all, I haven't changed, 52, I'm not going to change, I don't do no door knocking. I don't knock on the houses and say, hey, I got an open house. You see the sign I put up, smell the cookies that I have got from the store, then you're good, okay? The water bottles I have, but I don't, some people go, I'm gonna knock on the door and say, hey, we have a, because unless they telling me they ready to buy it, I'm knocking on the door for nosy neighbors. So for me, I don't do it. Some people do it and it's great. Some people have sold their houses to their neighbors. I just don't do it. I'm very afraid as a woman and my ethnic makeup to knock on people's doors, talking about, hey, it's COVID, everything's going on.
Yeah, that's one of
I just don't do it.
See
you
these
know.
signs, see these balloons, come on down.
Right, you got the balloons out. I mean, if it blows away, it blows away, but I'm just saying, you know, I got the sign in the yard, got the directional, come in, I'm gonna let you come in, give you the little spray and stuff, but I just don't do it. But open houses, I do bring cookies and I do, because I know if I don't get them, my son will eat them. So I'm good. I don't bake in the house in case I burn them, then the smell of burnt and stuff there. So I don't bake, but I bring cookies and napkins. I have Keller Williams. I don't have Keller Williams, but I have red and white or black
Balloons.
balloons and napkins, little plates and stuff, and I keep them, and then what I don't use, I bring to the next one. Okay, I have go to the dollar store, got a little red, little bins, put some ice in it, put some water, little bottle of water, and they think it's cute. I ain't gonna buy nothing. I ain't never had one person to buy something, but I've had people to look at it and I like it because that gives me a feel for the house. And if I find someone that's calling about it, I can help. Okay. Make sure when putting it in the MLS, and like I said, I'm gonna send to everybody that input sheet that you can use. Make sure when you put it in, you set up, Lord have mercy, your showing time. Okay. Instructions. Because if not, I have one, I don't know if she's in this office and I need to check on it, but every time she puts a lease up, they call me. Hey, I'm looking at this lease, how much you want for it? Who is it? They 3 agents that I know that have my phone number, my personal phone number down for people to call when they're interested. I don't know how they got my number. I don't know if it was a switch up or something, whenever they were doing they sign in the yard or what, or if it's on something, but definitely make sure that you set up the showing time correctly. Make sure you know how to open up a center lock, a combination. That one that you got to go like in high school, go one way this way, and 3 times, and 2 times this way and back, okay? And make sure you, oh Lord. And I have to remember the Uncle counterclockwise, oh, I gotta do it again in the class, so can you get in? Okay. The other one is making sure, if you are belonging to Flex MLS, which is one of the other ones that we belong to.
How do I get access to that?
I sent it to you, didn't I?
I don't have it.
I'll send it to you.
That's Nash County, Rocky Mount, all that
Mhm.
too?
Yep, I'll send it to you because you need to fill out you go on there, fill out a form, and you have to have logs letter, which is a letter of good standing from the Raleigh board. And in there, I'll make sure I include send it to membership at rrar.org. But you send it to them, and then what's her name, Terry, she'll get you started with it. But understand, if you have showing time, and I'm only telling this because over the Labor Day weekend, I was looking at houses down there with my parents, thinking about maybe getting me a investment home down there. Because I don't want to live across the street from them. And so, no ma'am, no. So, and I have land that I could build over there, but no, I'm gonna give it to my kids, let them suffer. So, yeah, every time I come down, I drive 2 hours down there, and then it's like, when you stop by Walmart and give me something, did you just not leave town? Because we've only 10-15 minutes from town. I had to stop, get food, everything, said no. So I was looking, and because I'm with showing time, my assumption was because I'm with showing time, I scheduled it, they allowed me to schedule, but when I got to the house with my mom, I couldn't get in because I didn't have access, because I had not went through setting up my showing time for flex versus triangle. So I couldn't get in, and to any of them that had a central lock. Now, if it had the regular lock, it would allow me to go in. And unfortunately, the house I really, really liked, it was just a combination lock. I was able to get in it. But make sure you get that set up if you're showing houses in Rocky Mount or these different places and you're trying to get in, because they can give you 1-day code, but do you know how frustrating it
They
kind of
don't like
looks?
the 1-day codes.
No, and not only that, but they're like, why are you showing in my neighborhood for? You coming from a different one, and so they kind of get an attitude. I'll be glad when they change it, so you can just send them your pocket card and they gotta give it to you. That's coming down the wire. But I was like frustrated. My mom was like, we can't look at the house. I was like, no, mama, we can't look at the house. But then when I looked at the side and all the junk, I said, do you really want me staying here? She's like, no. So one, I did want to go see, but I couldn't get neither one of those agents. It was Labor Day weekend. They were like, really? I ain't getting ready to answer you. You go look at the house another time. So make sure you know about that. Supra, you got to sign up for that one. It's crazy. Make sure that you look at the showing instructions when you're doing it for your sellers, and make sure that they're contacting you and their form of contact is right. If they say, I don't want nothing but an email, make sure it's just email. Your sellers tell you how they want to be responding to approval, especially if they're occupying it. Now, if it's they can go and show, that's different. You just let everybody go whatever you want. Make sure you have that information, because if not, they can call me. And I don't have a clue what your seller's name is or nothing. They're like, how you want me to do this? I don't even know what agent is this. I got to call them now, tell them to get this right. I said, call the agent, tell them they need to do it. And they'll do it online, over the phone for you. Make sure you have set up the showing instruction, and make sure that you're available. There's some agents that I have, every time they list something at Rocky Mount, they call me, and I have to send their contact information to the client or to the potential client. So make sure you're doing that. Offers. Your job as a seller's agent is to discuss these things. And we've already tread on a little bit, talking about how much it is, the due diligence and earnest money, the type of loan. Why the type of loan?
Because before.
Because
Because
where there's it requires an appraisal. FHA loans have more stipulations than like
Yes,
conventional loans.
yes. You don't have to be a pro at it, but you gotta know some of the stipulations. Some people call me and say, okay, if it's a VA and something comes up, can they get their money back? One article you read said, yes, they can get back their due diligence. Another one said no, but they can get back their earnest money. Just make sure you're aware of it. They do have classes on Wednesdays, or type of loan. Sean Poole with the Movement Mortgages come here and did it. I'm telling you, I learned a lot of information that day that I didn't know. So just make sure that you're aware of that, okay? If it says cash, cash is king. The due diligence expiration and settlement date, make sure you have that. That's something you should be discussing with them.
There's some type of lending program, like I think it's called Ribbon. You ever heard of that?
Yeah, I
Where
heard
they-
that. Matter of fact, I
they
gotta
give you
call an
cash.
agent. I gotta call an agent today who his client said he don't even deserve his commission check. He didn't do nothing. I was on that Ribbon program and he didn't do nothing. He said, so, okay, I gotta call him and figure out what's going on.
But
with
doesn't
it.
it make their loan look like a cash offer, all cash offer?
I've never heard it until yesterday.
Yeah.
The Ribbon loan.
That's the word.
So it's supposed to be like a regular loan product, but it's an all cash offer. So,
Right.
I don't know. Somebody mentioned. it to
I would
me.
love to look into it, because I gotta look into it to see what that process was for the gentleman that called me and complained about my agent and how he was like, he don't deserve that money. I said, okay, sir, all right. He said, you hear me? I said, yes, sir. I hear you. He was like, he got that money, he ain't do nothing. I said, okay, all right. So in the closing process, these are the things that you should be doing in the closing process. Understand there will be inspections. You need to explain to your clients, your sellers, these are the things that they may possibly do inspections on. They're going to send you the the request from showing time to do these things. Should you, if you have a house that's occupied, let them know that, or not, that this is what they're going to be doing this day. They're going to be coming in and doing inspections. Nosy neighbors will always call the seller or owner and say, hey, there's somebody over at your house. I don't know who they are, but they done pulled up in your yard. Let them know, yes, that's it. Let me ask you a question. If there's an issue with the well, who's responsible for getting that? Say, for instance, the water comes back, they do a test on the water test. Who's responsible for getting that well shot? Is it the buyer?
The seller.
The seller. Absolutely. Who's responsible for retesting to make sure it comes back?
Bye.
So, I got 50-50 chance.
Somebody sent me an email about that, and they were like, isn't it the buyer responsibility? I was like, why? If there's a problem with the well,
Yeah, that's true.
you get it shot,
The
the
seller.
seller should want to know that it's good. But sometimes the buyer will take it upon themselves and say, we'll pay for it in order for it to be shown that it's okay. Because the water is you got something in the water. When I sold my house, they said, oh yeah, you need to do it. Of course I need to do it. Everybody, all they have to do, this is a trick they do. All they got to do is put something in it and it'll come back reading that they need to get it shot. It's a trick. They put in the water and get the reading that it needs to be shot so they can make some money. Found that out the hard way. But $350 later, I got the test done. And then the buyer was like, should we pay for it? No, I'm gonna pay for it to make sure it's good because this is a well. I wanna make sure that y'all are having a house where you're not sick. So I kind of took it upon myself as a listing agent and the seller to pay for it. But most of the time, we want the seller to pay for it, but the buyer will sometimes say, no, I'll pay for the retesting of it to make sure that it's been done correctly. Because we can show as a seller that it's been done. And they give us a testing for it most of the time, but you have to pay for that. Okay, negotiations, it's your job to negotiate repairs for your seller. Great communication skills, why I have to say that? You would think I wouldn't have to, but I do. Because sometimes when the buyer agent's trying to reach out to you and you never answer, I get the phone call. Okay, so make sure you answer, even if they're irritating, okay? Make sure you get all the documents signed by the seller. What documents am I talking about? When you go on the contract and you have the attorney, they send over to you to get to the seller's information, their social security number, their mortgage information, if there are HOAs, if there's a husband and a wife, all that stuff. The one thing I want all my agents to do, and I hope they'll do it, do not have any of your clients to put their social security number on that form. When you send it back over to the attorney's office, because they're gonna give their phone number and email, the attorney's job is to call your sellers and ask them personally for their social security number. Do not allow for that to go over the airwaves, especially unless you got an encrypted email system where they got to do a whole lot of stuff, because all it takes is one person interacting your email and getting that person's social security number. Okay, so make sure I put on mine when it says social security number, I said it's your job to contact the seller. And so they do it. Okay, so make sure they sign those documents so that way there's no delay in the closing because we don't have a payoff. That's normally what the holdup be on the seller side. Okay, unless they haven't completed due diligence repair request. Attend the closing. Somebody just like, well, I gotta attend. I don't care if your seller don't attend, you attend it, representation. And don't come in a pair of shorts and flip-flops. Come looking like you're running a business. I've seen some people say, yeah, I'm going to a closing and they got on flip-flops and shorts. And I'm like,
Cause I'm going to the beach afterwards.
well, put those beach clothes in the car and change, so go to the bathroom at the attorney's office and change it and just go right on out.
You don't get the check right away, so you ain't going anywhere.
You waiting for that check, right? I had a closing last week and that closing was for the agent who was killed. And so I went to her closing, they said, you can't go in. And I was like, what, I can't go in? They were like, no, you can't come in. But then I kept seeing people come in, I was like, maybe they said I couldn't go into the conference room, but I was like, no, I'm just not even gonna risk it. But I definitely was dressed as if I was going to be going to one, and they appreciate it.
We
So
always
ma-
take pictures, so we're always, that's fine.
Huh?
I always take pictures.
I took a couple of pictures, I got a lot of likes, and then I just said, well, I could take pictures of my buyers, and that's cool, but I really take pictures of the house, because they were like, oh, she sold that house. Oh, okay, good. So now I just put the houses down. It always gets me a new buyer. Or it gets me someone that want me to sell their house. It works for me. Send postcards out to the neighborhood. Do it. Because what you do is if you say, hey, I sold the house, most of the time you're taking your sign up as soon as you close. So the best thing to do is to go over to this Cole Realty resources over here, this computer, put in the address that you just sold, and then get all the addresses of people that's in that neighborhood.
You go where? Oh,
That computer is sitting over there,
mhm.
Cole Realty resources, you go in, you type in, you log in, we log you in. We used to let other people log in. We realized they were logging in at home and everything, and they were getting ready to find us about $1,500 per person. So we have to have it here. The staff can log in. We usually log it in first thing in the morning, but you always say, hey, can you come and log me in? And what you do is you put the address in. It gives you all of the neighbors in that subdivision, their addresses or phone numbers if they're, unless it say do not call, which do not call.
It will say that.
It will
Yes.
say do not call in.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you do call, how much is the fine?
$500
per
Huh?
person,
$500.
500.
Who told y'all that?
How much is it?
For do not call,
It's 5,000, I think.
it's 10,000.
Oh, 10.
10,000? When did that happen?
I
For do not call, let me just, but it's not 500. If it was 500, some of us would risk it.
I know.
Okay,
I
but
would not gonna call.
it's
Stop cold calling.
because if they put do not call up there and you do that for me, she doing it, check with me and see what it is. I almost think it's in the thousand, because they'll send to us and say, just want to let you know, this agent called to do not, matter of fact, we got that early in this year, and that fine was 10,000. I said, oh Lord, I said.
I thought it was per call, 500. I mean,
No.
But you can call if you do have a buyer.
But how many people say, oh, I got a potential buyer and I want to da.
Oh, that's what I've been saying, so I'm alright.
You say, I have a potential buyer, and they'll be like, yeah, you ain't got no buyer, but okay, come on.
So that's doing business, and that would.
So if they're on the do not call list and you have a
Let me
buyer-
tell you something. It is, I'll look at it when we finish. Have you found it?
No. I'm just
Who
saying the
get
same
that
stuff.
10,000?
That's a lot.
Who
So
get
if you
that?
have a potential, if you have a buyer, you can't
That's
call.
different. Yeah, you can call them if they're selling their house. You can call them.
Oh, if they're selling.
Right, but if you call them saying, hey, I got a potential buyer and I see you got this house, I see it's not for sale, but you willing to sell.
$11,000.
How much?
11,000.
You gotta be kidding me.
Okay,
For
I
each-
thought,
for each
okay, I'm
violation.
$1,000 off.
Just in case $10,000 is not enough to deter you,
It's
we're gonna make it 11,000.
11,000.
Just for you folks
Right.
to know.
No, but that's not what they taught us in school. It was 500.
And if you come out.
They did say 500.
I read 5,000 somewhere.
I did not know it was 11.
So how do I make sure
Because it got a
through the
DNC on it.
computer?
This thing here says
DNC.
DNC, not for Democratic National
Right,
Convention.
right.
Okay, it says do not call.
Do-
So-
So I'm
DNC.
saying to y'all, I hope they recorded it. Remember, and then let me tell you something, when there is a violation, we as a firm get who that violation is to.
What about when you buy those lists that they sell, you say this list is for sure, and let's say I buy a list of 1,000 people
Yeah.
with certain criteria.
Well,
And then-
if you buy a lead, make sure
Lease,
that
a lease.
a lease,
Uh-huh.
and the people are calling about the lease.
And the people are gonna call, one of them is, let's say, is in a do not call list. How
11,000, I'm scared to call it.
Why you, so I'm trying.
I'm buying a list.
You're
of-
buying a list, a
From
lease,
the,
a
that,
rental, right,
from a marketing company.
right.
And I pay X amount of money and they provide me 1,000,
You saying like a Red X or a Vortex or one of these lead third parties?
Right, see, I had
Yeah.
Red X, and Red X will put up there, do not
DNC.
call.
Yeah, it's DNC up there.
Right, if you're buying leads from someone and they do not provide you with the do not call feature,
Stop it.
Don't buy.
then you have lost a lot of money and you gonna spend some
Is
money.
it
if you
worth it
have-
to buy leads? Do they pan out? I mean, I know there's some.
I did that, and I can promise you, everybody I called, there was only one man I called out of probably 1,000 calls, and yeah, I told y'all, I don't like doing cold call, but I had to do it to train people and on this particular team. And this one man, he said, "How you get my number?" I said, "Sir, they have a service." "Well, I'm gonna call that service and tell them, what's his name? What's your number?" An hour later, after a while, he said, "But look, my mama got 2 houses that she wants to sell." And I'm like, "Man," he said, you sound pretty." I said, "Sir," that was the wrong phone call. 30 minutes later, he called me back the next day. "Hey, what's that pretty lady I was talking to?" I said, "Man, you haven't even seen my face." He said, "I can tell by your voice. It sounds good." So, no, I don't buy no leads anymore. And I only did it for some girls that were trying to do it. I only helped them out. They're now on their own and they don't even use it. But they had used it before and so did it work, but that was Red X. I don't know if the Vertex is supposed to do it, but cold call over here, they specifically say do not call. So that's why I said postcards. You can send that through the mail and put your picture up there and say, "Hey, I sold this house at this address." Why you can use your listing? Because it was your listing. You have the rights to it. You paid for the pictures, so you can put that on the postcard.
What's the
Now-
quickest and easiest way to send those postcards out?
For me, fine, we have some, I think, Michael Lewis, I definitely know, KW Command has some. And what you do is you just order them and then you take them to the post office and you pay for bulk and just
Some
let
of
them
them
mail it
will
out.
ship it for you too.
They'll ship it for you. I have them send it to me and then I go to the thing and I said this, and I give the post office the spreadsheet
Yeah.
and say, "Here, can you send this post office to me?"
So just to be
They
clear,
do.
I need this to be clear as day.
It's clear as
Because I've
day,
been calling,
day and
Sharon,
night.
I've been calling.
Okay,
I'm talking about dialing away.
Mhm.
I don't get no response from that.
right. Well, who is the company you're using?
I'm using Red X.
Okay, so Red X is one that I know will do it.
I understand that.
But he wants to double check.
I understand that, but because I was told pretty much, if I have a buyer, which I do have a buyer,
Mhm.
and I've been practicing this with James in PC class
Right.
every morning, Shanita and everybody else. And I said, I've been calling and I've been telling them specifically, I have a buyer that's specifically looking for your subdivisions. Their house is not for sale or anything. So am I wrong for calling?
Has that been working for you?
Because
Because I have a buyer that really wants a house in Roseville.
I
And-
just sold my house in Roseville.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but yours was too much.
I am
I don't
pulling
know.
my hair out trying to find a house in Roseville for his family.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, because we are, and in a sense, this is your job to find a house. for
I
your
call
clients.
everybody in Roseville, hey.
Right, so if this is a specific neighborhood, or, you know what I'm saying, I was calling a Coventry subdivision.
Right.
And I was calling, and I was just calling away, and you know, but more so what I'm saying, if I have a buyer, am I in fault for giving
No.
them a call, even if their house not listed for sale?
No, because remember what I said, it's okay to call someone and say, "I have a potential buyer that may be interested in your house." It's the thing about it is even if they don't have it for a sale, you can still call them if you have a potential buyer. But the thing about it is, understand, if that person is on one, you still have to be at that point where if it says do not call and you ain't paying attention and you call that person anyway, just understand, be nice and say, "I'm so sorry, I wasn't paying attention, I didn't see that you want to do not call this, I promise I won't call you again and we'll remove you from the list." You can do that. Now, for me, every couple of years I go in and I do not call for back when I had a landline and for my cell phone. The problem is it only lasts for the cell phone, it's only seem like 3 months or something like that. And during election time, they don't even think about it, because see, you getting all these robocalls from them, they be like, whatever, you've been getting them other ones done. Okay, we'll do it after whoever the sucker is get elected. So that they don't do really well. Like last year I kept doing it, I kept noticing I was getting these calls. Like I just got 2 calls from here. I already know they're trying to sell me. I see that you know, your car thing is expired. It expired over a year ago. You need some insurance, that type of stuff. And I'll say, do not call me anymore. And I'll block the number. But of course, they're gonna send it to another number and come through. But you definitely need to make sure about that. I want to finish up the last 2 because we're at the end, it's 12 o'clock. When I sell a house, I put their anniversary date in KW Command under Smart Plans home anniversary. So every year it sends out something automatically to my seller that says, hey, notice you and your house is sold, or you still, and it asks the question, are you looking to sell your house? And I do the same with my buyers. I say, hey, I know you've been in the house 2 years. You know anybody that you would like to refer to me? That's it. It's a no-brainer. It does it forever, seems like. And then, of course, the last thing is to prospect for another listing. How you do that? I just showed you about the postcards, so that's a good one. What else would you do to get another listing?
Post
Maybe in
it.
that neighborhood.
Yeah, you could do door knobs and stuff like that.
Post that you just sold it on.
That's what I
social
do.
media.
Social media is my friend when it comes to that. I post it. I'm the
Just
contract sold, just sold, just sold. Somebody's looking. Send the email out to your sphere of influence and say, hey, just sold this house, or you know anybody that's ready to sell their house, because the market is hot. I personally like to get the thing that Jeremy sends out where we're outpacing the TMLS. So that way, when I'm going to someone, talking to someone, I say, listen, we're selling everything. This office here is selling everything under the sun. Maybe Mark Jackson selling it all, but guess what? He in my office. I'll use what he doing, but I bet you I get it. I'll say he's monopolizing Jordan Clark, Ruby Henderson, whoever, Sharon Sunkel. I'm just like, I will do that. But that way you're starting to get people that are starting to see, because all it takes for them to see you selling one, and then they're like, oh, okay, I didn't know you sold. I thought you only were about. No, I do both. I don't discriminate. I'm doing both.
Right, yeah.
So make sure, was this class helpful to y'all?
Oh,
absolutely.
yes,
Okay,
please.
absolutely. We will be teaching these classes. I'm getting more into the classroom now that, no, I still am gonna be on vacation and going places, but I'm gonna try to be more active in here and doing these on Wednesdays and Thursdays, having these classes, because I think it's important for y'all to know what the broker thinks, broker in charge thinks, but also how to get out of messes before you get in them.
Not to get in trouble.
Be proactive instead of retroactive. Okay? All right.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, it's 1 question. But the seller net sheet, do you have something on the seller net sheet and how to fill that out? And I've done it, I did it in class when we were,
Right.
but that's a while ago. I want to make sure I get that and how I am.
Yeah, I got one that I can definitely show you and make sure that when you're doing the seller net sheet that we're doing it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop sharing because we're.
And
Is
then
there any
also,
way we can get a printout of those pages? or-
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna send that PowerPoint, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm gonna send it
Word,
by
you're gonna send it by email or you're gonna?
email.
Email.
It'll be easier for
Yes,
email
please.
for me.
Yes,